Welcome everyone to our webinar on strategic cooperation and European funding opportunities. I will just wait a few seconds before starting to give everyone the time to join. Thank you. Yeah, well, let's get started. So before starting really, I would just like to remind you a few rules. So the microphones and cameras have been switched off for all the participants, and the session is being recorded. You are going to receive this recording as well as the slides at the end of the webinar. You can ask questions by writing them in the dedicated menu on the GoToWebinar. You have it on the screen. And do not forget to fill the short survey at the end, please. At the end of the webinar is really short, only takes a few minutes. Thank you. So on the agenda, so today we are going to welcome Marielle Campanella from Pôle SCS. She's going to present European funding and opportunities and calls that are open right now. And then we will welcome Lander Beruta from the Cluster Gaia, who is going to present the ClusterXChange program and the next business mission to the Basque Country, to Gaia. And we will then finally welcome André Bonardo, CEO from EasyGAN, who is going to give us his feedback on the B2B mission in Dresden and on the ClusterXChange program. So before handing over to our speakers, I would just like to briefly introduce the Excite project in the frame of which this webinar is actually organized. So Excite is a European project co-funded under the European Cluster Excellence program. It is a 2 years project, and we focus on skills, processes, and services related to digital transformation, both for the cluster organizations themselves and for our members. So the main objective is to strengthen cluster management excellence and facilitate exchanges and strategic partnering between the cluster staff and our members. And next slide, please. So we have key elements and activities that are the development of cross-border collaboration, the development of joint activities, but also the improvement of our strategies to strengthen cluster management excellence. We also focus on skills development and contribute to the European Pact for Skills. And we conduct peer learning sessions to exchange best practices and work on new services, but also joint services between clusters. So this Excite project, next slide, please. This Excite project is composed of a consortium of 6 clusters, 6 European clusters. So the first one is Business Hive Vilnius. Then we have the ICT cluster from Poland, Silicon Saxony in Dresden from Germany, and then the cluster for digital transformation and innovations in Bulgaria, so SCS cluster in the south of France, and the cluster Gaia in Spain. I will now hand over to Marielle, who is going to present European funding opportunities.
Yes, thank you very much, Anaïs. So my name is Marielle Campanella. I'm in charge of European projects at Pôle SCS, so one of the cluster partners in Excite. And as explained by Anaïs, one of the goals of Excite is also to promote some funding opportunities that exist at the European level, especially for SMEs. So within this webinar, I'm going to introduce to you some funding opportunities that are currently existing, that currently open. So namely the cascade funding. So what is the principle of this cascade funding if you're not aware of this funding mechanism, and which are the current open calls. I'm going then to mention briefly the Horizon Europe calls and how to get the right information. Then some words about the EIC, the European Innovation Council, and then I'm going to explain you which type of support you can get from clusters. So the first point on the agenda is what we call the cascade funding mechanism. Actually, it has been widely noticed that the European funding schemes is sometimes less adapted to smaller organizations. So this is the reason why the European Commission has decided to launch this principle of cascade fundings a few years ago in the program Horizon 2020. So cascade funding is actually a funding scheme at European level that is not managed by the European Commission, but by intermediary projects that are themselves selected by the European Commission. So the global idea is to delegate the funding in a more agile way. So it means that entities which are volunteers, and clusters can be part of such entities, are replying to a call for projects, quite classical, and are financed in a classical way in EU projects. However, within this big project, given large part of the budget is reserved to be then redistributed under the form of grants to smaller projects, which are themselves managed and organized by the bigger project. So this is why we have this naming of cascade funding mechanism. So these smaller call for projects allow the funding of some actions which are usually targeted towards SMEs, such as support to innovation, but also financial support towards smaller concrete projects. So the redistribution, the cascade funding mechanism, is organized under the form of specific call for projects which are fully managed by the consortium of the main umbrella project. So these calls are completely dependent of each project which are in charge of animating them. So these open calls, it's the way we name them, are published so via the website of the major projects, but also via the funding and tender portals of the EC. You can see the link here on the screen, and you will get the link once you will receive the presentation by email. So those calls are usually open during at least 2 months. The application process is usually lighter than biggest project, always in English. The application could be done either individually or in a consortium of a few entities. So you have to check what the rules are for each call because they are different from each other. The evaluation are managed by the main projects, usually by independent experts. And funded projects are usually quite short in terms of duration, between 6 to 18 months usually. The funding is quite often under the form of a lump sum, so a fee. It means that without any justification of costs. And the contractual part is managed between the funded entities and the main and one partner of the main project, which is funding the smallest project. Of course, like in any EU funding, the double financing is forbidden. So you cannot get the same project funded twice by 2 different means. And it's important here that you read well the guide for applicants of each open call, which detailed the eligibility criteria, the amount of the grant, how to apply, and so on and so forth. So here within this webinar, we are going to give you some, let's say, examples of cascade funding, but we are not ourselves directly involved in those projects. So I would really recommend you, if you're interested, to be in touch directly with the partners of this main project. One way to find a cascade funding call is to look also at the Eurocluster program. So the Eurocluster program is a large program launched by the European Commission last year. So 30 Eurocluster projects have been launched to implement the EU industrial strategy. And Euroclusters are, let's say, cross-sectorial and interdisciplinary initiatives of industry clusters. And in total, this is 42 million that the EC has allocated to the Euroclusters project, and the Euroclusters have to then distribute at least 75% of those 42 millions towards the SMEs. So each of those 30 projects, and you can see their names here on this diagram, have launched or will launch cascade funding projects. So I will really encourage you to give a look to these Euroclusters via the link that you will receive in the slides. And it's worth mentioning, for instance, 2 Eurocluster projects in which some Excite partners are involved. So Silicon Eurocluster in the value chain of electronics, and the DREAM related to digital technologies applied to advanced manufacturing. Then, regarding the selection of currently open cascade funding calls, so here is a list of the calls that we have identified that could be relevant and interesting for you. So, and the list is organized by chronological order. So firstly, there is the call from the project SURE 5.0, which is about digital transformation of industrial processes in the domain of transport and automotive, aerospace and defense, and electronics. And the call is addressing here SMEs. And by applying to the SURE 5.0 call, you could have access to an acceleration program related to Industry 5.0, plus a grant up to 50,000 euros per project for deploying IT technologies into those industrial fields. So the deadline is on the 25th of October, and you can here see the link on how to get access to the funding, let's say, application scheme. Then the project CERMAS has launched an open call related to extended reality. So here, CERMAS aims at funding a consortium composed of 1 to 3 partners made of SMEs, but also with research and academics partners. The program is expected to fund up to 100,000 euros per consortium, projects which are related to the 6 topics that you can see here. So runtime avatar generator, generation of 3D objects, facial recognition of automatic speech, artificial empathy, and opinion leader identification. And the deadline to apply is on the 31st of October via the link cermasproject.eu. Then in a completely different subject, you have the call SUSTAIN, which is related to the development of innovative IT solutions in the building construction sector. So the financial support is will be focusing on SMEs that are developing new products, new services, or new methods addressing the smart building construction domain. So the application is for single partner for the development of prototyping, of testing, running demonstrations, and the grant is up to 50,000 euros per project. So deadline on the 1st of November. In another subject, you have the ICOS call, which is about the development of operating system that is called the functional continuum. So namely, how to develop IT systems that are fully transparent and interconnecting into various environments of IoT, edge, and cloud resources. Here, the application is for consortium of at least 2 entities. So one SME and mid-cap, and with SMEs and mid-cap, one of them being a technological provider and the second one being an end user. And the grant is up to 200,000 euros per project in several, replying to several challenges. So in-car infotainment management system, agriculture robotic platforms, railway alert monitoring systems, and then energy management and smart home. And the deadline is on the 2nd of November. In a completely different field, you have the Foodity Cascade Funding Project, which is about the deployment of digital solutions for food and for nutrition. So here, the funding will be for consortia made of 2 or 3 entities, SMEs, research organization, and also entity engaged in social development. And the consortium must be led by an SME. The grant will be up to 150,000 euros for innovative digital solutions in food and nutrition personalization, a sustainable food system, and shopping experience. and the deadline is on the 8th of November. In the domain of health, you will find the Desire project, which is an Eurocluster, by the way. And here the goal is to develop some innovative products for e-health. And the consortium must be made of at least 2 entities with at least 1 SME. And the funding will be in the form of a direct grant of 10 to 20,000 euros, plus access to some services provided by the consortium member of Desire. And the deadline is on the 13th of November. You will have also the Up to Circ call regarding circular economy. So this call is addressing SMEs that would like to increase their resilience and their competitiveness through sustainable models. So you will find diagnosis on circular maturity, training and networking with European peers, access to European grants also to finance feasibility studies and demonstrators related to circular economy. So the grant for feasibility study will be up to 15,000 euros, while the grant for developing a demonstrator will be up to 50,000 euros, and the deadline to apply is on the 15th of November. If we come back to food tech, like the previous call Foodity, you have the Titan call, which is about the deployment of innovative technologies for agri-food, so food tech and agri-tech. So here you will find all IT technologies like AI, machine learning, blockchain, IoT for food safety and food transparency. The financing is for pilot projects developed by SMEs with a grant up to 156,000 euros per project up to 18 months. And the funding, the application deadline is on the 1st of December. Then you will have the call Erashi, which is about AI and robotics in order to improve working conditions, especially in factories. So the Erashi project has set a number of challenges, and for this second call, 6 are still open, like robotic assistance for carrying heavy loads, tools for recycling electronic materials, digitalization of manufacturing processes production, automation of logistics processes, and digital planning of production tasks. And the beneficiaries shall be SMEs or startups for a grant up to 200,000 euros per project. And the application deadline is on the 20th of December, sorry. And then it's worth mentioning also the Gemstone project, which is about the deployment of advanced green solutions for industries, manufacturing industry especially. They have several calls which are currently open for the adoption of green smart solutions, for the deployment of new green technologies into industrial environments, but also smaller vouchers for training capacities of SMEs, and also explore vouchers in case you would like to develop your internationalization strategy beyond Europe. And so you have various calls which are open. The first are going to close on the 31st of October, and the last one on the 31st of December next year. So it's quite a continuous open call. Still related to digital transformation of factories, you have the transformers call here, which is the equivalent of an support program. It's not for direct funding, but via the transformer calls, you can get access to a transformation program to design and implement a transformation plan for SMEs, for factories mainly. And there are multiple cut-off dates twice per month and up to the middle of January. And then to finish, it's worth mentioning also the Metastar project, which is about ICT applied to aeronautics, space and defense. And there are also several vouchers open for green product development, for digitalization and for internationalization. And it's a continuous call which is open till the end of December. And finally, it's worth mentioning the AIBC Eurocluster, which is about the deployment of AI and blockchain to manufacturing, mobility, energy and logistics. And there is currently a call open for product development, and the deadline is on the 16th of January. So here is the list of the very long examples of calls which are currently open. So don't hesitate then to consult those websites in case you are interested. So in the agenda of the European funding landscape, of course, you have the big program, which is called Horizon Europe. So to resume, Horizon Europe is the 9th framework program of the European Union for research and innovation for the period 2021 till 2027. So it is the follow-up of the well-known Horizon 2020. It has a global budget of 95.5 billion euros for this period of 7 years. And the ambition of Horizon Europe is really to support the European policies which have been set at the highest level. And so also to fuel the EU scientific and technological excellence and to strengthen the European research area. The Horizon Europe program has been organized around 3 main pillars that you can see here. The most interesting for us is the second pillar, which is called Global Challenges and European Industrial Competitiveness. And here you will find one subject, one cluster per main, let's say, technological and industrial fields. So cluster 1, health, cluster 2, culture, creativity, and inclusive society, cluster 3, civil security for society, which includes, by the way, cybersecurity. Cluster 4, digital industry and space, quite relevant for our membership in Excite. Cluster 5, climate, energy and mobility. And cluster 6, food, bioeconomy, natural resources, agriculture and environment. And then in the pillar 3, you will find the European Innovation Council. I'm going to talk about that just in a few minutes. So here is a diagram which presents the life cycle of an EU project in case you are not very familiar with that. So any EU project is really a collaborative project, transdisciplinary and transsectorial and transnational. Usually EU projects at a larger scale last between 3 to 4 years. They have usually a minimum funding which is in the range of 1-2 millions and in average between 4 to 5 millions. So quite ambitious project in terms of duration, of budget, and therefore in terms of KPI. You have here all the life cycle of a project. It starts from the publication of the call, then the time to prepare your application, building a consortium, building your project proposal, identifying your objectives, your indicators, your impact, and your work plan, how to reach this impact. Then you have to submit your application via the funding and tender portal of the EC. Once the deadline is over, then the application is evaluated by a committee of independent experts, which are usually peers. They check the admissibility, the eligibility, and then the evaluation according to 3 main criteria, which are excellence, impact, and quality and efficiency of the project. If you are part of the, let's say, the lucky laureates and of the awarded projects, then you enter into the phase of the grant agreement preparation that lasts usually at least 3 months. There are some financial checks which are done also for each participant in the project. And then the preparation and the signature of the grant agreement between the coordinator and the European Commission. And then you can start the implementation of your project during at least 2, 3, 4 years. So it means that this full, let's say, diagram lasts quite a lot because you have at least 4 months for the preparation, 3 months for the evaluation, 3 months for the grant preparation, and 2 to 4 years for the actual project implementation. So here are the various instruments that exist as part of the Horizon Europe program. So you have the RIA, Research and Innovation Actions. So those projects are usually low TRL, maximum 4 to 5 at the end of the projects. It's about really the development and the integration of innovative solutions. And the projects are funded at 100% of the eligible costs. Then you have the IA, so the innovation actions, which are more higher TRL, up to 6 to 8 at the end of the project, with more the deployment of prototypes, demonstrations, validation of at larger scales, and so on. So private companies are funded at 70% of eligible costs, and other entities, so including research organization, are funded at 100%. And then you have the CSA, coordinating and support actions, which are funded at 100% of the eligible costs. And here, these actions are more done to structure a given community or to prepare a future call for projects. So the eligibility conditions are that each consortium usually must be done of at least, and it is really a minimum, 3 legal entities independent and established in 3 different member states or associated countries, and at least 1 must be in the member states. And the submission is completely done via the EC funding portal via several parts, including the part B, which is the core of the project, which is made of maximum 30 to 55 pages. So now the question is how to find your way and how to find relevant calls for you, for your own organizations and for your specific business. So as I said, the pillar number 2 is organized around 6 main clusters. You can here see the names there. So what is interesting is that you refer to the work program of each cluster that is relevant for you. Regarding the digital solutions, which I guess is quite the common point of each of the participants today online, it's worth mentioning that there is indeed dedicated calls in the cluster for digital, but however, regarding, for instance, digital applications for health, you could find also some projects which are interesting in cluster 1. The same digital applications for environment, you could find some interesting projects calls in cluster 5. So it's worth studying into details each work program which is relevant for you. You have here the deadlines of the next coming calls for the year 2024. It is the season of the info days. So I mean the European Commission has recently organized info days during the past weeks, or is going to organize info days in the coming weeks, cluster by cluster. So on the slides here, you have access either to the recordings, the replay of the past info session, or the links towards the info days that are going to be organized. For instance, the brokerage events for culture is organized today. So via these slides and all these resources, by clicking on the link here, you will have an access to the work program of each cluster, and then an access to the info days, either for registration or the recordings of the past info days. And during these info days, the EC normally explains quite into details what are the expectations, calls by calls, topic by topic. So that's it for Horizon Europe. I mentioned also in the 3rd pillar of Horizon Europe, the European Innovation Council. So actually the EIC is an entity by itself, which aims at accompanying the market deployment of innovation, which are extremely highly innovative and with very high expectations in terms of impact on the society. So the overall goal of the EIC is really to improve the innovation capacity of the European Union and to improve the EU competitiveness facing high, let's say, competitivity towards other continents. So the EIC is really addressing researchers and companies that aim at developing highly risky projects, too risky for investors, for private investors. So the goal of the EIC is to propose funding solutions that will aim at reducing the risks of such innovative projects and to accompany them in the maturity of their solution. So the EC has actually 3 complementary funding instruments to bridge the gap from the idea to the market deployment. So the EC Pathfinder, the EIC Transition, and the EIC Accelerator. So the EIC Pathfinder is addressing actually low TRL projects So within the Pathfinder program, the EIC supports the exploration of bold ideas for radically new technologies. So it welcomes high risk and high gain interdisciplinary science collaborations for really technological breakthrough. And Pathfinder really goes beyond what is already known. So it is really focusing on visionary thinking for promising and powerful new technologies. So typically, applicants of the Pathfinder are really visionary scientific, visionary entrepreneurial researchers from universities, from research organizations, from really highly innovative startups, and so on. So typically, projects in Pathfinder involve consortia of researchers and other partners from at least 3 different countries. And grants goes from 3 to 4 million euros, so supporting early stage development of future technologies up to the proof of concepts. So the financing is under the form of Research and Innovation Actions, RIA, so up to 100% of the eligible cost. They are either open calls, so without any given subjects for TRL 1 to 3, either challenges call for TRL 2 to 4, and they are usually 4 cutoff dates per year. The last cutoff dates for 2023 is during this month of October, and the calendar for 2024, including the names of the new challenges, will be known very soon in the EIC. Then you have also the EIC Accelerator. So the EIC Accelerator is a funding program that offers support to startups and to SMEs that have innovative and game-changing product, services, or business model that could create really new markets or that can disrupt new markets in Europe and even worldwide. And it is really addressing SMEs and startups that have the ambition and the commitment to scale up very quickly, and that are looking for substantial funding, but for which the risks involved are too high for private investors alone to invest. So there are 2 types of funding. So the grant funding, which is a non-dilutive funding up to 2.5 million for innovation activities, so TRL up to 8, to be completed within 24 months. And this grant funding could be completed by a direct investment, dilutive. In this case, this is the EIC as an entity which is going to take part into the capital of the companies, up to 15 million share into the capital, so for market deployment. And in this case, the EIC would be part as a patient capital principle with a 7 to 10 years perspective. So it could be blended finance, grant plus direct investment, or an investment only component. They are usually EIC Accelerator challenges. So for projects that match predefined topics that are known for the full year by the EIC, or open subjects for projects that don't match any EIC Accelerator subjects. The preselection process is made in 2 steps, with first a pre-screening, and then you have a go, no go. If accepted, you go to step 2 for the full proposal, and if accepted, you can go to the step 3 with the face-to-face interviews. It is an extremely challenging and competitive call. Many candidates for few laureates, but the funding is really worth it. The same like the EIC Pathfinder, there are 3 cutoff dates per year, and the calendar for 2024 will be published very soon. Then to finish, so which type of support you can get from clusters, and how to get support if you're interested by any of those calls. So first of all, we really encourage you to be in touch with your local clusters. So in Excite, the partnership is made of clusters like Pôle SCS is. So if you're not linked to any cluster, you can go on the ECCP website and visit the cluster mapping to see which cluster is the closest to the organization in terms of geographical coverage, but in terms also of market field. You can be also in touch with the national contact points in any EU countries. There is a network of NCP, national contact points, organized usually by the national ministries to explain you how calls in Horizon Europe are organized. I invite you also to attend info days and brokerage events to find suitable partners. And also don't hesitate to visit industrial ecosystems. So to visit regions in other countries to expand your network. And this is a good transition because this is exactly what we are aiming in the ClusterXChange program that my colleagues are going to present you just after me. So that's it on my side. If I'm not wrong, there is a question from Gemstone. Is it really 2,000 euros or 2,000 K euros? Actually, there are different vouchers. There are small vouchers of 2,000 euros, which are just for training of SMEs and for travels. And the biggest vouchers in Gemstone are actually 60,000 euros and 40,000 euros, which is really the range of funding that you have in Cascade funding calls. So I hope it replied to your questions. And I think this is the only question I can see in my screen. If you have other questions, don't hesitate to write them in the chat. In the chat, we could still take the question at the end of the webinar. So now I'm leaving the floor to Anaïs for the rest of the program. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Marielle. We are now going to hand over to Lander Beruta from the Cluster Gaia, which is a cluster partner in the project Excite. He's going to present the ClusterXChange program and the next business mission to the Basque Country in Spain.
Thank you very much, Anais. I will share my screen right now.
Will you please just send that? Okay, it works well. Thank you very much, Lander.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you for the confirmation. So, good morning. I am Lander Berrueta, a research and development project manager from Cluster Gaia, and I work in the department of Gaia's cluster services. So we provide services to our associate companies and external enterprises. And the main reason for me to be here today is to explain this mission that we are preparing to bring enterprises to here, to the Basque Country. Apart from, well, one of our main roles of our cluster is to support the B2B relations for SMEs and medium companies, and to support their competitiveness. And that's why we are designing this kind of mission to our region. So before going to the specifics of the mission, I will like to explain you the Excite program and the funding opportunities for this kind of international missions. So depending on the host country, you can get between 530 and 1,100 travel package for a 3 working day to a month exchange durations. This kind of economical support, it's like a lump sum, as it has been mentioned before. It's one of the main examples of lump sums or cascade fundings, and it has some minimum requirements for the companies that want to benefit from it. The main exchanges, they need to be 3 days long, and for exchanges that are shorter than 5 days, you will receive 50% of the lump sum. That's why we are encouraging companies to visit us in the Basque Country, to see our ecosystem, and to benefit from this funding opportunity. So we have in this funding 2 kind of roles. We have visitors and we have hosts. We are looking for visitors from Europe to come here to the Basque Country, and our companies of our association will have the role of the host. showing the solutions they have and the main different actors and technological research centers we have here. The role of the visitors, they will have a B2B personalized networking program. They will really get to know the market and the insights of the market, and they will have the opportunity to set up collaborative projects. As I mentioned before, one of the main roles of clusters is to support the cooperation within different agents and companies of Europe. Also, there will be opportunities to collaborate in R&D projects and, well, everything that comes from the B2B meetings. So this is a short version of the mission we are preparing. We are, the objective is to prepare a 3-day business mission to discover the high-tech ecosystem of the Basque Country. Depending on your interest and the type of companies you are, we will prepare a tailor-made agenda with the B2B meetings of companies from our ecosystems. So you can expand your network, get new contacts, see innovative solutions, new business opportunities, and get to know foreign markets. For this specific mission, you will receive 415 euros to cover the travel costs. So this is like the introduction to the Excite mission. And now I would like to explain you like a little bit what kind of region we are and what kind of companies you will be able to find in our region. So it's a highly industrialized area. For decades, it's been strategic for the government and industries here. We have a strong manufacturing sector for automotive, aeronautics, energy and environmental technologies, industry, engineering, and machine tool. And it's one of the highest productivity rates in Europe. We have really specialized suppliers, over 400 companies with high quality standards. And there is the largest financial center of the European Atlantic axis also here. One of the main characteristics of the region is that there are 11 prioritized clusters, but there are several more due to the interest of the government and the support of the government to the cluster policy. That's why in the region, the philosophy of cooperation and internationalization, it's very common. And the result is that there are like almost 32% of our production goes to exports. So to ask a little bit of the area, we are right in the northern region of Spain, close to the border of France. And well, in 1,000 kilometers, you can find over 500 million inhabitants. So the market access also, it's really high from our region. Our region has a small extension. There's 7,234 square kilometers and a small population, around 2 million. But the main characteristic of the region is the smart specialization in energy, advanced manufacturing, and biosciences. That's like the huge bet for the companies, the government, and all our industry is heading to be a competitive and a resilient in Europe. So in Cluster Gaia, we are an association. We have 315 companies, which are the 7% of the GDP of the region, so it's quite high. We have a strong relation with them. There are over 23,000 professionals, 2,587 million euros in exports, and close to 170 million spent in research and development. We have a really close relation with these kind of enterprises. There are most of them SMEs, and we work really actively to create new business opportunities for them, and also to support other companies that come here to exchange knowledge, exchange business opportunities, and to grow and be more competitive. We are really aware that we share really European values for international cooperation, and I mean, this kind of missions and exchanges, we do it really frequently. And to see our sector in depth, we have a really strong background in electronics and computer science, but the last kind of technologies like IoT, artificial intelligence, cybersecurity, and virtual reality and augmented reality are being included in our cluster. So we have a really strong and competitive cluster, and a strong and competitive business environment, thanks to the competition, the hard work, and the background of high tech and engineering we have in the region. So continuing, well, I will leave you a link to the video. I don't think we have time for this kind of regional video. And apart from that, in this 3 days mission, we are planning on November. We will have here another type of events that you will be able to do also a matchmaking for with another companies that are not in our association but are also in the region. So one of the biggest meetings and innovation lands in the Basque Country is the Basque Open Industry. This kind of congress is one of the biggest of the year here in the region, and it's from the 13th to the 14th of November in Bilbao. So there are mixed companies from additive manufacturing, cloud computing, cyber physical systems, virtual reality, cybersecurity, collaborative robotics, big data, and augmented reality. There are technologies from a whole this spectrum, really competitive and really specialized, each one on its field. So in these kind of events, you will have the opportunity to meet a lot of companies, over 130 exposures, and attend to conferences. And also there will be the research and technology agents from the Basque Research and Technology Alliance in that event too. So all the technology and all the power of our industry will be represented in this event. Apart from that, it's the SME Week 2023, also in Bilbao, and it's the Enterprise Europe Network Annual Conference. So in the first event, the SME Week, you will have a great opportunity for networking too, and several workshops and policy workshops too, to get to know other companies and get to know the insights of our ecosystem. And in the annual conference, you will have several panel discussions with referent experts about resilience, innovation, and competitiveness, and there will be workshops too. So you will get the links down here so you can see them, all the agendas and all the specifications about your interest, and if you are planning to come to visit, just let us know. We are really focusing on creating B2B opportunities for a lot of companies and enterprises in Europe. And we will elaborate a proposal agenda, tailor-made, something personalized, taking into account your interest, the technologies you are interested in, but also the type of companies you are. So you are really welcome. I will leave you here my contact and my colleague John Michelena's contact. So if you are interested, you have any questions, just feel free to write an email, or in the end, in the Q&A, just write the question in the chat and we could talk about it. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Lander. Yes, don't hesitate to ask your questions in the chat for Lander if you have some, or write an email. That's also okay. We will now welcome André Bernardo for the presentation of his feedback and testimony on the mission in Dresden last June.
Yes.
So the floor is yours, André.
Yeah. Thank you. Do you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Can you?
Okay. Okay. Let me share my screen and there. Okay.
Yes, it works.
Hello, everybody. I'm happy to give let's say feedback on my mission in business mission in Dresden. But beforehand, just a few words on EasyGAN. So I'm the CEO of EasyGAN, and at EasyGAN we want to accelerate the deployment of GAN, which is a semiconductor material at the heart of the current technological transition. And GAN, as you may know, is already present in LEDs. It's also now gaining traction in battery chargers for handheld devices. And it's a very promising material for electronics in general. And at EasyGAN, we combine the best of GAN and silicon to obtain very high performant and competitive components for large-scale deployment. The startup is we are a deep tech industrial startup founded in 2017 from the CREA laboratory in Sophia Antipolis in France. And as I said, our business is to manufacture, design and manufacture GaN epi wafers for equipments. And we target currently in millimeter wave RF components, and currently looking for investors for our first fundraising round, seed stage investors. Here's the team. We are 7 people, mostly engineers, technical person in the team. And one of our main partners are CNRS Lab, like CREA and IEMN, and Ribert, who's a MBE equipment vendor for epitaxy. Now, let's jump directly to the purpose of my intervention today. So I was invited to join a business mission with ClusterXChange to Silicon Saxony. So Saxony is a region of Germany with the headquarters is Dresden, and the program was over 3 days in June. We had a visit of an innovation hub. We also had presentations and linked to Silicon Saxony cluster. Then the second day we went to some second and third day to fab visits, and I will go more into that. I had also the opportunity to pitch EasyGAN at Silicon Saxony conference and also meet, have some direct contact with possible business partners. The nice thing was that we had the financial support. So for a startup like EasyGAN, we got €415 for this trip, and also the free admittance to the conference, given that I was giving a talk at the conference. So regarding the content of the visits, we went to 3 semiconductor fabs. In Finland, on the bottom, we went also to visit Bosch, which is interesting because they do both semiconductor and equipment, as you may know. And then also Global Foundry on the top left here, you see the picture where we put on some suits and went really deep into the clean rooms of Global Foundry, and that was quite an experience. Also, we had other visits that were less semiconductor oriented. We visited the Fraunhofer Institute near Dresden, We also visited a robotic manufacturer or robot manufacturer facility. Really interesting to see how they manage their factory there with the IoT and yeah, smart management. And then on the bottom right, you see Volkswagen in Dresden. They have a open, let's say, a transparent factory. You can see how they assemble vehicles, especially electrical vehicles, and quite impressive to see that fab. Now, in a few words, what did I get from this trip? Of course, besides the fact that Dresden is a very nice city and Saxony a very nice region, you have to know that in Saxony, they claim that they produce every third microchip in Europe. So for a startup like EasyGAN, it's quite nice to know, to have contacts there. So it made a lot of sense to go there. In fact, I had 10 relevant contacts during the stay. Of course, I met many more people, but let's say relevant to my business. And we did start a cooperation with the Fraunhofer Institute lab on a very light basis for the moment, but at least it could be quite promising. I had the possibility to pitch EasyGAN, so this as a startup CEO. So it's good to be able to get visibility in the conference. Of course, the visits I already mentioned that they were quite interesting and exciting. And of course, since the Silicon Saxony is an ecosystem with many different actors and different positions in the value chain, there was a lot of food for thought to have this overview, especially at the Innovation Hub visit, where they specialize in IoT systems. The only things, of course, that was a bit disappointing for me, but on the other hand, I did not have a huge expectation, but it's that Silicon Saxony or Saxony in general is not really the specialized in GAN technology. So it was more silicon, or let's say semiconductor, classical semiconductor, and less GAN material. But I would say that that was not enough to be, let's say, the overall experience was really great, and 3 fruitful days. If you have some questions, you can contact me at this email. And of course, if you want to cooperate with EasyGAN or invest in EasyGAN, don't hesitate.
Thank you very much, André. If you have
are there any questions, or I can take questions also offline later, no problem.
I can't see any in the chat right now. Marielle, no, there are no questions for now. Thank you very much, André, for your presentation. It was really interesting. And thank you all for attending our webinar today. Please, I would just like to remind you that there is a short survey at the end, and it will be really nice for you to fill it. Thank you. You will shortly receive the slides and the webinar recording. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.